All right, the FBI's 1023 form was released to Congress exposing the Biden family criminal enterprise. The very next day, Donald Trump was charged. And now Hunter Biden's plea deal blows up, and the next day, more charges are brought against Donald Trump. The FBI, they seem to be covering up for the Biden family. What's going on here? For more on this, let's bring in Texas Congressman Wesley Hunt, member of the Judiciary Committee. Congressman, good to see you. What is going on here? It seems like every time news stories come out about the Biden criminal enterprise, the FBI seems to come out, or the Department of Justice seems to come out with more charges for Donald Trump.
I want to start off by saying that Joe Biden is the big guy. We all know he's the big guy. We all know that millions of dollars were funneled through his son because of who his father was by Burisma. We also know that Hunter Biden had a gun charge and tax fraud. We also know that he is a crackhead. And by the way, we found cocaine in the White House, and we don't know whose it was, wink, wink. We know exactly whose it was. This is the most corrupt family we have seen in modern history, and they have turned the White House into a trap house. And what I always find very interesting is that every single time a charge is brought up against Hunter Biden or Joe Biden, guess what? One gets brought up against President Trump. And guess what? People are sick and tired of this two-tier justice system. If this were the Trump administration, we know exactly what would be happening right now, and we are fed up with it.
So, Wesley, based on that answer you just gave me, I'm going to ask you another one, and I think I know the answer to it. I wonder if you support this impeachment inquiry that Kevin McCarthy has been talking about. Democrats keep saying there's no evidence, but you're going to have Devin Archer testify before the committee on Monday. If you had this 1023 form, the FBI brought out showing that one of their informants talked about the Biden family crime syndicate, Joe Biden making $5 million. Yeah. You also have the IRS. And the Department of Justice not allowing the FBI to look into the big guy. Do you support the inquiry?
Of course I do, and it's time for us to do the right thing. And to be honest with you, it's not the most politically expedient thing for us to impeach Biden right now. Keep in mind, he has the worst approval rating of any president in modern history. And the Iowa caucuses are in 6 months from now. I don't want to rally the troops in favor of Joe Biden, but enough is enough. It's time for us to do our job. He is a criminal. His family is literally the Biden crime family. That's what they are known for today, and it's time for us to do our job. And I fully support any kind of inquiry that would dig deeper into the Biden crime family.
I mentioned Devin Archer's testimony on Monday. Do you have any idea what we're going to hear from Archer in his testimony?
I've gotten very careful about that. Let's wait and see exactly what he says. I do think the testimony is going to be damning toward the Biden administration and the Biden crime family. But let's not jump the gun on this first. Let's see what he says.
That's smart. All right, let's switch gears. The Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan revealed a number of internal documents showing the White House pressuring Facebook to censor Americans. How can this censorship that's unconstitutional be stopped in Congress? Are you guys going to do something? Are you taking this evidence, this information, and are you going to take action?
What is our job to do is to reveal to the American people just how nefarious and how awful this was with the suppression of conservative voices and voices just like mine. Look, sir, I'm on social media, and the last thing that I want to see is my voice being suppressed and continue to be suppressed by a liberal media that's clearly being run by the left. Jim Jordan's a very smart man. He knows exactly what he is doing. And as we continue to expose these people through their hearings, this gives the American public a choice. We could choose liberty or we could choose communism. We could choose a party that's against freedom of speech or a party that is for freedom of speech, which is ours. The election is right around the corner. Just like I said, the Iowa caucuses are 6 months away. Let's make sure the American people know what the right choice is. That's exactly what Jim Jordan is doing to expose these companies for their nefarious intent.
It's outrageous in that, are you going to introduce a bill to protect free speech? We actually have the First Amendment that protects free speech. And as this information has come out, showing this partnership between the administration, Joe Biden's administration, and social media companies, they don't seem embarrassed at all that they're trying to quell speech on social media platforms, having someone be an agent of the government to stop usually conservative speech and voices from being heard.
Yeah, and it goes way deeper than that, too. I mean, you're looking at the FBI that's actually getting involved in the election process by suppressing conservative voices. I mean, this is literally un-American. And I think what Jim Jordan is trying to get at is pointing out, again, this two-tiered justice system. Again, you're suppressing one side, but not allowing the other side to voice their opinion at the same level as everyone else. And the only thing we want in this country is parity. We want it to be fair. If you're going to go after President Trump, make sure you go after Joe Biden the same way, which they are not. If you're going to suppress conservative voices, well, then suppress liberal voices, which they are not. The only thing we want is parity. It's the American way. And that's exactly what we are fighting for every single day in the halls of Congress.
Well, the heart of democracy is free speech and debate. When you have a government silencing, half of the political aisle, you really don't have a democracy. You really don't have a debate. It shuts down the very principle and idea of who we are as a country. I want to switch gears on you, though, Congressman. I know you've been hot on this issue. You've been very vocal on gender transitions for kids. What is the next steps for Congress? Are you guys going to do more hearings? Are you going to introduce legislation? Where do you go with this?
Well, the answer to that question is yes. I don't know if you saw the hearing yesterday, but I was absolutely just taken aback by how proud I was of some of these brave women that are now stepping forward and talking about how uncomfortable that they are, that they have to change in front of biological men in locker rooms. This is ridiculous. It's un-American. And look, I have 2 little girls at my house. I will do anything to protect them, but not just them, but any young woman in this country deserves the protection of the federal government. We have got to take steps to ensure that happens. We've also got to take steps to ensure that men compete against men, biological men compete against biological men, and biological women compete against biological women. When my children work hard in their craft, and they get good at something, and they put the time and effort in, I do not want their award stolen away from them by a man that claims to be a woman. That's ridiculous. When I was growing up, this was not a thing. It's a thing now, and it's something that I am absolutely going to fight tooth and nail for to preserve the realities of what it means to have a sane nation. And,
we need people fighting on this issue. I'll see your 2 kids and raise you 4. I have 6 young girls who I want protected as well. I mean, and I think all dads, all moms out there want their kids to be protected from, seeing male body parts in the shower or seeing a young girl who testified at the hearing who had transitioned and then transitioned back. What shocked me, though, the Democrats come out and say they're the party of compassion. They're the party of inclusion. And you play some clips off Democrats and the lack of compassion that they had from the heartfelt testimony that was given yesterday was actually outrageous. I mean, I was offended as a dad and a former member of Congress that they didn't show more compassion for the witnesses. How about you?
We are clearly the party that actually cares about women's rights, that actually cares about preserving women's sports, that actually cares about Title IX. We are clearly the party that wants that because not a single Democrat yesterday came out against this. And look, I want to protect our children as well. When I was a child, I did childish things, but then when I became an adult, I behaved accordingly. It's up to us to raise our children. And what I want to see is this. Somebody like me who fought for the rights, who went to combat, who fought for our Constitution, who fought for adults to make their own decisions. Guess what? When you're an adult, do whatever you want with your body. But what I want to make sure is that we protect our children from making the kinds of decisions that could ruin their lives for the rest of their lives. Let's not let an adolescent decision ruin somebody's life as an adult. That's what we have got to step in and stop.
Bravo, Congressman Hunt. Keep up the fight. It's really important work. Protect our kids. Nothing more important than that. I appreciate you joining me on Kudlow. Very grateful.
God bless you. Thank you for having me.
God bless you.